You are now listening to
Chakras and Shotguns. Welcome to Chakras and Shotguns, the podcast that guides you on your journey of spiritual development and personal preparedness. I'm Jen, a former lawyer, now yoga instructor, wellness entrepreneur, and author.
Hey now. All right, and I'm Mick, a marketer, energy healer, and prepper. So manifestation. It's a topic that we hear a ton about in kind of the wellness and spiritual space. It feels like this cheat code. All you have to do is, type in the right combinations on the controller and you can get whatever it is your heart desires. But in actuality, if you really want to co-create with the universe, you have to take action. And oftentimes our actions can be inhibited by what's going on the inside for us, whether that's fear, imposter syndrome, feeling anxiety, feeling overwhelmed. Well, in order to overcome those feelings, you have to have courage. And that's why today we're talking all about courage and specifically how we can tap in spiritually to unlock our courage and get to the things that we truly want in life.
But before we get into that, I kind of alluded to it in the opening. I have created a very special daily journal. I'm about to whip it out on the YouTube.
Okay, don't bump the mic.
That part. Also, with the book out.
I know what you mean.
Well, I just don't want to get censored. But this is a very special journal that I've worked on, focused on courage. It goes along with this episode. We're going to talk more about it. Stick around to the end to find out how you can get a copy.
And I'm not just saying this because Jen is my partner, but...
I'm your partner.
You like that, don't you? But Jen has done an amazing job with this journal. She spent a lot of time and energy into it. I think it's super dope, and I would tell her if I didn't think it was dope. She knows that.
He would, y'all. But he loves it, so go star.
All right. Well, let's begin as we always do with a little mindfulness meditation to put us into a aligned and mindful place.
Yes. So if we were still doing quirky titles, I would call this episode Cream, Courage Rules Everything Around Me.
Okay.
Just because in that same vein, it's like you can't get a new job if you never apply. So we can spend so much time daydreaming, but if we don't take action, as Mick said at the very beginning, we're going to be stagnant and stuck.
For sure.
And so for this breathwork, I wanted to do some of that unblocking work where we really focus on something that we want, that is, we believe, for our highest good, and that something in us is keeping us from moving forward. So it might be like, I want a new job, or I want to go back to school, or I want a new relationship, or I want to start this business. I try and throw a relationship in there. It's not just about money.
Sure.
But it's, I want to meet more people. I want to move.
Yeah.
I want to move to a different place where I don't know anybody, but I'm scared. Some of us might be exiting the United States,
That is certainly something I'm hearing from people.
So having that courage and being able to take that next step sometimes requires some unblocking.
Yeah.
So think of something that maybe you've probably been thinking about for a while, but you're like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. What if I fail? All of the things. And we're going to keep that in mind as we do this visualization together.
Love it.
Okay. So go ahead and find a comfortable seat. I would say place your hands face down somewhere on your body, maybe on your belly, on your heart. I always love that hand placement. You can also place them on your thighs, but you really want to ground yourself. Start to connect to your breath. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth. Exhale. Let something go. Inhale through your nose. Open your mouth. Exhale. Let something go. Inhale through your nose. Hold at the top. Seal your lips closed. Exhale back out through your nose. Allow yourself to breathe normally, but try to match the length of your inhales to your exhales. I want you to visualize that end goal. If it's a new job, visualize yourself sitting at your new desk or remote. If it's a new friend, visualize yourself getting ready to meet them. Same with going on a date or being in a relationship. If it's a new business, visualize the customers coming in, the orders, whatever goods and services that you're going to provide. Visualize that end product, that end goal, that end result that you so desire. Let's turn it into a full body awareness. What are the emotions that you feel when you visualize this end goal? Are you happy? Are you proud? Are you excited? Are you in disbelief? How do those feelings feel in your body? Do you have goosebumps? Do you feel lighter? Add that to this visualization of you achieving this dream. Allow yourself to feel gratitude for yourself, for taking the action to get to this place, for trusting yourself and the universe to get you there, for the dream even being a part of your reality. Now we're going to step back in time a little bit to whatever is blocking you from going after that dream. Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Worry? Is it insecurity? Whatever it is, I don't want you necessarily to feel it, but I want you to face it. Maybe visualize it as a large orb that you're walking up to. But as you approach it, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it can fit into the palm of your hand. And as you hold those emotions that may be holding you back, can you bring to your body awareness a feeling of love, of compassion, of understanding? As you look at that orb, can you tell yourself and these emotions of yours that you're holding, I understand you, I acknowledge you, and I'm moving forward. As you say those words to that orb, imagine it getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Filling yourself up with gratitude and love, and belief in yourself, cheering yourself on as you step into this new chapter that requires you to be courageous and brave. Knowing that the end goal, the end desire is in sight. Because you've taken the time to work through whatever is blocking you. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, let something go, anything that remains, anything that's lingering. Start to wiggle your fingers, your toes. Maybe even reach up overhead, stretch your feet, full body stretch. And when you're ready, flicker your eyes open. Hello. I would say welcome back, but this is a new version of you that hopefully is a little less burdened by what might be keeping you from going after your dreams, your goals.
There's a saying in sports when they're talking about a really good coach.
Okay.
They say that his or her players are willing to run through a brick wall for them. And let me tell you something. The way you motivated me just now got me feeling like I run through a brick wall.
Aww.
So that was good. That was dope. Like, I'm sure everyone else is feeling that same motivation too. You know, that battery pack in your back.
Thanks.
That was good.
Thanks, babe.
Of course. Oh, she's so modest. All right. Let's get into our main topic. Let's talk about courage. You know, as we always do, we want to start with a little definition. You gonna do the thing?
I was gonna. You were making fun of me for doing the thing, so I was like, "No, I'm not gonna do it." But we love a definition. Let's get into it.
I was giving you a moment. I was giving you your shine. All right. So Merriam-Webster defines courage as mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. So what's key there is that fear is in the definition. So courage is not being fearless. I think a lot of times we make that mistake of assuming that people who are courageous have no fear. Fear is very much a human, basic emotion. It's a response to, external stimuli. It's all about self-preservation, right? It's meant to help keep us safe. So
yeah. And I think this is something that I have kind of gotten tripped up on as I've thought about doing new ventures or whatever it is, that I'll be like, oh, well, fear keeps me safe. So there must be a reason why I'm hesitant to move forward with this thing because I'm staying safe. But a lot of these concepts, we talk about this all the time about fight or flight and these survival instincts from when, we were out here with lions and tigers and bears, oh my, that applying for a new job shouldn't feel like that. I think, and you have to, it's very nuanced, but I think a lot of that work that you can end up doing through yoga and meditation and finding time to be introspective is that you start to parse out what's fear, what's discernment, right? I'm getting a weird feeling about this job I'm applying for. it might be discernment, or it might be like, oh, I'm scared that I'm going to have to show up in a different way, and maybe they don't think I'm qualified, and even though your resume says you deserve to be there. So like being able to like figure out what that is. Yeah. But also really getting to the root of why you're afraid. Mm-hmm. It's not just like, sometimes it's not black and white. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, I'm afraid of starting a new business because it might fail. Sure. Right? Or are you afraid of being seen? Mm-hmm. Are you afraid of putting yourself out there? Are you afraid of what people are going to say? Yeah. And why does that matter to you? Yeah. And that's something that we are not going to solve for you in 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's definitely go make an appointment to go see the lady.
You got to go see the lady. But fear of success, which is one that I still grapple with, right? Because I think success requires you to show up in a way that maybe you're not ready to step into. Yeah. Fear of failure, of course. Fear of being seen. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear of being outed as a fraud. Imposter syndrome is a big one. Absolutely. Particularly for women and people of color and Black folk. It makes me even think of, and I've started to see it on different job listings, that they'll say, and maybe it's a California thing, but they'll say men will apply to a job if they meet
like a handful of
exactly.
Like if it's 10 things and they meet like 3 of them, they'll apply.
Yeah. And women will be like, I need to have at least all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think people of color too will find themselves in that space because we're scared of entering what are usually predominantly white spaces, and because there's been so much conditioning and language of like, well, how did you get here? And are you an affirmative action hire? Are you DEI hire? Oh, this is why we don't really like to do these diversity programs, because they're not qualified. And because I've heard it all from being at the firm, right? Oh, we don't want to hire from this school anymore. And I was like, but you're hiring from this other school that's not ranked that high either. Exactly. So, but it's a white one. So, okay, that's neither here nor there. But all of that can seep into the psyche of like, well, maybe I shouldn't go and do this thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I just add to that. I think, you want to do the work of uncovering where the fear is coming from. And we had a conversation a couple episodes ago with a friend of mine, Shanita Nicholas, who talked about quantum physics and African spirituality. And if you haven't heard that episode, definitely go back and check it out. Super dope. But in there, she talked about the concept of quantum entanglement and how she sees that concept in the connection that we have with our ancestors. And with relation to this topic, I know there's times when I have fears that I investigate and I realize aren't really my own, and that they really originate back with my parents or my grandparents, or maybe even further back, right? Fears of taking risks financially, because things haven't always been safe for Black people in this country to do those things, right? Or fear of going into new spaces, or fears of change, right? Like venturing out to move to California. There was some fear there of being away from family, right? And so some of that can be based back on some of those past fears that your ancestors may have possessed. So
can I talk about an example? And this one's low risk, or it's like kind of innocuous, but it speaks to that, right? So Black people have a reputation for always ordering our steak well done.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a marker of
like low class.
It's like, really? Like that's not how you eat steak. Yeah. And or like when you start eating your steak medium well, you go to medium, as you start to get a little bit bloodier, it's like, oh, I've made it. I've gone to college, made a little grad school, I'm making money, this is what I'm doing. We recently found out maybe a year or so ago that the reason why that is because racism. So back in the day, during Jim Crow, butchers would have meat that they knew was about to go bad. They would sell it to Black people in the neighborhood. And what would happen? Black people would get sick because they wouldn't cook it all the way through. Because being able to not cook your meat all the way through was a sign of freshness and of like how quality the meat was. But they would redate the meat and would sell it to Black people, and Black people would get sick. So then Black people would know, when you get meat from the butcher, you have to cook it all the way through to survive. And so we have been told a very small part of the story, right? The fear is, oh, I don't like my meat bloody, da 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 da. But it was from a real problem of not getting quality food.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so how we've adopted like, oh, I can't eat that. I can't. It's like you can if you know it's quality meat, but like you're picking up on the fear of maybe your grandparents or even before that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about courage and where it lives in our body. And our show is called Chakras and Shotguns. We want to start by talking about the chakra system, which is a part of our energetic body. A recap of the chakras: they are energy centers that are all over the body. There's actually hundreds, if not thousands, of chakras in our body, but there are 7 main ones that we tend to focus on, and they run up and down our body. So the main ones are, starting from the bottom, the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. So for courage, we tend to look at 2 main chakras, and that is the root, which is at the base of the spine, and the solar plexus, which is the one here, just below our ribcage curve.
So the root chakra is the center of survival, self-preservation. It's a very tribal chakra. So you could think about it of like being safe, having somewhere to stay where you belong, having a tribe, like having people around you. Those are some of like a lot of the root chakra kind of things. So what can trip that up, of course, is like abandonment issues, not feeling like you had a very safe home, not feeling like you had a lot of money, like being like, can I survive in this scenario? And so a lot of times we'll see courage, right? Or what trips up courage is fear, which is from Eastern Body and Western Mind, one of my favorite books. She calls fear the demon of the root chakra. So like, I'm not going to survive this. If I put myself out there, I'm going to die. Like, you're not going to die. It's like, oh, if I invest in this company, I'm going to go bankrupt. Or if I quit my job and start doing what I really want to do, I'm going to be unhoused. Like, because we're conditioned that like certain things have to stay the same. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. Everything's going to go to shit. And then what? So, yes. So it begs the question, like, how many things do we not move toward out of fear, right? And you see this a lot. Also in that book, she talks about how we develop our chakras, these main chakras, like over our early childhood development. And you can see a lot of those things with kids, right? Like things that they just will not allow themselves to do because they're scared. Oh, I can't do that. And like how they have to push through that, and how, you know, as parents, we're supposed to guide them through, like, it's really not that far. You're this high off the ground from that chair. Just go down the slide. And they're like, I can't, it's so far. And then it's like, it's not really. And so like, I don't know. I'm also weaving in like a little bit of the self-parenting episode too, of like, how can you self-parent yourself through that fear of like really being able to look at the risk and understanding that you're going to be okay. So for the root chakra, in that same book, Eastern Body, Western Mind, she talks about the rights of each chakra. And for the root, it's the right to be here. And so when we get in our own way around things that we need to be courageous about, you're not taking up space. You're not showing up. You're not being seen, right? Every single thing you do that requires courage requires you to take up a certain amount of space. I'm like trying to think of anything else, of like, if you wanted to make a cross-country move, it's like, no, I'm going to be in New York. This is where I'm going to be. And I'm going to take up space, take up residence there. If I'm going to call a friend and invite them somewhere, I have to show up and be seen and take up space. And so really thinking about it from that lens, it's like, you deserve to be where you are and show up in the spaces that you want to be in.
That's true. I love that. I think the root chakra can be really difficult for a lot of folks. I think I had some issues with it in particular. You know, I think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that those basic human necessities, right? And kind of getting past those to be able to kind of move further up toward enlightenment, right? And so it's very similar. Let's talk a little bit about the solar plexus. So if you remember, the idea of courage is experiencing fear, being scared, but still doing things anyway. And so in that book, Eastern Body, Western Mind, Jen talked about the certain rights that come with each of the chakras. And for the solar plexus, it's about the right to take action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, why is it often so hard for us to take action toward our goals? And I think we've talked a little bit about it, and I think fear is also a part of it. But there's a lot of times this lack of self-esteem, right? The feeling that you have the ability and you're qualified enough to move forward. And I think that's really, for me, why the solar plexus tends to be one of my favorite chakras to work with my clients on. Because I think a lot of times, folks don't even realize that there's a lot of that negative self-talk. There's a lot of shame that is stored in the solar plexus. And so it's one of those places where if you can kind of clear out some of those blockages and really do some of the work there, it can have really powerful impact on folks. So yeah, and I think just going back to kind of the book and that right to act, I think it just goes back to what we were saying kind of even in the beginning, right? In order to manifest, you have to take that action. And so whether that's, wanting a new job, making sure you apply, taking the risk to go ask the cute girl or cute guy out that you've been peeping in the gym for a minute, taking that initiative to go out and move forward.
Yeah, shame is really interesting because I think people more so think, oh, I'm just afraid. But I had to probably work through some shame around wanting the things that I wanted.
Yeah. Speak on that a little bit more.
I'm going to, I'm a yapper. But of even oh, I want to write, but who am I to write? Or I want to read tarot, or I want to read human design. Or at one point I had a little fashion line and it didn't go anywhere because of fear and shame. Because I was like, people know me as a lawyer. And I kind of feel ashamed that I'm doing this thing and that I'm not just all in on being a really good lawyer. And who am I to do this? When I start asking, who am I? That feels very, very shameful. Who are you? You're getting too big for your britches. And so it's almost like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't take up that space and, show up in that way. My boo said, I don't have that problem. But
I don't. That's what I was over here thinking. I was like, do I have that? No, I ain't got that at all.
I was like, talk a little bit more about that so I can see if I have that affliction. I do not. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But this is why I really love the chakra system. It's really that book. I can't talk enough about that book, but it's really fascinating when you're talking about the building blocks of you and your energy as you developed as a child, and how certain things may have happened, or conditioning, or life lessons, or lessons that your parents got from their parents, got from their parents, got from this ancestor who was screwed over by that person. And then it all pours into you being here at this time. And it's a really interesting way of breaking down how these different emotions and these different feelings can really motivate or unmotivate us from doing what we want to do. So yeah, people will tell you just do it. What's the problem? Why are you still in that shitty job? You hate that job. I'm tired of hearing about how much you hate that job. But why you need the courage to move out of that space is each time is unique.
For sure.
Every single time it's unique. I have a fear of selling things, but I'm gonna sell this book to y'all at the end of this episode. I have a fear around it.
Yeah.
And it's from my own hyper independence. I'll do it myself. And there's a relationship here when you're an entrepreneur that you can't be hyper independent as an entrepreneur. You need someone to buy your goods and services, sure. Right? Yeah. And so there was that. But then also Mick and I recently learned how to swim in adulthood.
Oh yeah.
That was a different fear. I had a fear of not doing it well, not getting it by the end of the week, looking goofy, a little light drowning. A little
You thought you were dry drowning at one point?
I did think I was dry drowning. Have y'all heard of dry drowning? It's where maybe a little water got into your lungs and you think you're fine, and then you wake up but you actually you're drowning slowly. Y'all know I don't mean to laugh at that. I'm laughing at you believing that you have. Well, y'all know I'm a hypochondriac. It was something that I watched out for a lot with the kids when they were they're still in swimming, but when they taking swim lessons. But then I was like, can I do it? Because, my head was hurting a little bit and I was feeling very fatigued. Mm-hmm. But I also was swimming for an hour. Mm-hmm. So I was tired and maybe I just didn't need to be in that night air, as my grandma would say. But yeah, fear of dry drowning, right?
Yeah.
very different reasons why I needed courage to do those goals.
For sure. All right. So guys, we talked about the root chakra and the solar plexus chakra and how those are the areas where you want to focus on if you're trying to build that courage up. And so we wanted to give you guys a couple tips, particularly if you're feeling, the root is where a lot of that fear is residing for me, or I'm feeling a lot of shame in my solar plexus. There's some things that you can do to work on kind of those chakras and help you get into a place of feeling courageous. So for the root chakra, reconnecting with your body, and that's doing things like yoga, doing things like a meditation with a body scan, just practicing things that allow you to bring your awareness to your body, right? Also grounding. I can't speak on grounding enough. I actually just had a session yesterday and I was like preaching to my client about why they needed to spend some time grounding. It's super important. It allows you to connect with the energy of the earth. You get such a euphoric feeling when you're really tapped in and allowing that skin to touch the surface of the earth. So spend at least 2 to 3 minutes bare feet on some grass, on some dirt, sand, whatever's nearby, so that you can just really tap in and allow your body to connect directly with the earth. And then just declaring and reclaiming your right to be here, whether that's through affirmations or a mantra that you choose, just to really put yourself in a place where you kind of remember why you're here and kind of overcome some of that fear that pops up in the root.
And all of that of reconnecting to your body and grounding also really helps with getting you out of your head. Because exactly. I feel like sometimes we stay so here, so like cerebral, that we're just like, I can't. And then we're convincing our body that we can't. Absolutely. And then we don't move. So like really getting out of that overthinking, analysis paralysis.
So moving on to the solar plexus. So things you can do to kind of recalibrate that. One, I think just taking small risks, doing things out of your comfort zone, signing up for that random networking event. If you, want to meet people, want to find your boo, or just want to make some new friends, there's a lot of different events throughout America where there's like, dinner with strangers, or there is run clubs and things where you can just, I'm getting a little overwhelmed thinking about it. But yeah, so those are opportunities where you can take a small risk and kind of get yourself out of that stagnation of feeling like, you don't have that self-esteem. Physical exercise. So again, doing things like running, doing things like lifting weights, doing things, even Pilates and some of the other more strenuous physical activities. And then therapy. I think we talked a little bit about it earlier, but being able to get in front of somebody and work out where the root of some of that shame is. It could be something that is stemming from, past trauma as a child, that you may need to work through. So definitely we are big proponents of therapy.
Some other tips: accountability partners. Those are great to cheer you on and keep pushing you to take hard action. Now, this is a lesson for you and me. Don't ask somebody to be your accountability partner unless you're ready for them to be your accountability partner, okay? Your partner. Because when you pick up that quesadilla and you about to put it in your Uber Eats cart, and that accountability partner say, quesadillas? I thought we were eating healthy this week. And you don't want to hear that. That's when you know that you should not have asked that person to be your accountability partner.
You gotta know your partner, I mean, like your actual partner when you are choosing an accountability partner. Not like maybe...
And I feel like that partner should know you and know that you had a hard week and maybe you want a little cheese between the tortilla.
But I take my role as an accountability partner very serious.
Moving on. If you're into crystals... Some crystals that you can incorporate: carnelian, hematite, tiger's eye, bloodstone. You can wear them on your person, like in your pocket, in your purse, jewelry, meditate with them, have them on your desk, like as a reminder. definitely like if something in your work requires some more courage, just to kind of either sit down and have that like visual reminder that like, yeah, I'm going to be courageous. This is my courage stone. This is what we're here for. And just really starting to incorporate more crystals into your life.
So bring it back to where we started the show, which was about manifestation, right?
Manifestation.
And so we talked a little bit in that lead in about how you have to take action in order to bring about the things that you want through this process of manifestation. And so I think we kind of have outlined, through this episode where asking for what you want, means you're overcoming that fear. You're stating, that you deserve to have these things, right? And you're overcoming that shame that could rest in your solar plexus, right? So just the act of doing that, I think, is helpful and shows that you're, progressing with courage. But then you also want to make sure that you're taking action, and so using that courage to move forward and take those steps that we outlined already, right?
That's the co-creation. We're not just asking Santa for the wish list.
Not Santa.
We're working together. It is around that time.
It is.
So yeah, so courage is a muscle. It's something that you have to work on. It's something that you build on. I'm not scared to get in the deep end of a home pool. I'm working on getting in the deep end in an Olympic-sized pool because that's the ocean to me.
Yeah, it look crazy.
But we're building. Yeah, we're working on it. And I've learned, I have exit strategies. If I start to flail a little bit, I'm by the side, and that helps me build my courage as I swim. Putting this book together, there were times where I was like, maybe honestly very vulnerable, procrastinating a little bit. Like if I fully finish this with the printer and they're going to invoice me and then I have to pay this money, and then what if nobody buys it? And it was like I would kind of like pump the brakes on it and be like, okay, like, but just push through and get it done. Like there's only like 3 things that you need to do that are very low hanging fruit. Yeah. So, now that I've done it, it'll be so much easier for me to do it again because I know what that process looks like and I know what's on the other side of it. And that's what I'm manifesting.
Well, tell them all about the book.
I know, I didn't tease about it. But it's called The Courage Journal. It is on the front, it says, I am courageous. So it's a daily journal. But before you get into that, there's intention setting, there's affirmations, there's a affirmations practice, and then the daily journal pages, there's a morning portion where you're talking about things that you want to be courageous to accomplish that day, and then affirmations for yourself, so a daily chance to change your affirmations. And then in the evening, you talk about things that you won, like these are my wins for the day, these are the things I'm grateful for today, and then you write a letter to yourself to encourage you for the next day. And you don't have to do it every day, but if in particular, if you were like, what, I had a win today, and I'm gonna fill it out for this evening, and I'm gonna encourage myself before I have that big meeting tomorrow, or this is the thing that I want to do tomorrow. I want to ask my boss for this raise, or I want to go to this networking event at the end of the week, for example. And so it gives you an opportunity to really even hold yourself accountable, but also paying attention to the things that you've accomplished. Because I think sometimes we're just like, I haven't done anything at all. And then somebody's like, you went to that networking event, you got a raise, they put you on this big project. Like, you've done a shit ton this month. And so it gives you a chance to also reflect periodically. So there's 30, 60, 90, 111 day reflections. So you can look back and be like, wow, I actually did do a lot. And I set a goal. I had an intention for this journal to be more courageous, and look at what I did. There's also bonus content. So there's a couple of guided meditations by me, and also a daily affirmations practice with affirmations that are specific to courage.
Love it.
So really, it's not just like I am kind and I am healthy. It's like specific things about how you believe in yourself and what you can accomplish. So there's an ebook version. So if you like to journal on your iPad, there's an ebook version. And we also have this version, which is bound in this beautiful vegan leather with a nice little ribbon. It feels very luxurious, very luxe, very rich, darling. And those will be on our website, chakrasandshotguns.com, very soon. If you want to pre-order you can do that. If it's not up, get on the mailing list for sure. I'm also hosting a free courage workshop that's less of the woo-woo and more like some more tangible physical things and journal prompts to really help you kind of get to the root of where you can bolster your courage.
Love it.
So because we love our listeners, we love y'all so much. I'm serious. We're giving you guys 15% off with the code courage15. So when that hits these streets, you can get it hopefully well into like the new year. So like starting your new year, really entering 2025 with being very courageous. So get it for you. Get it for anyone you know that needs courage. Anybody starting school, a new job, a new business, a new life, anybody that you think could use a little extra courage and confidence.
Look at that. See, I'm the one that says I'm a marketer at the beginning of the episode, but look at you.
I'm very excited about this. It poured out of me. It kind of came out of it was a download. It came out of nowhere. I was like, okay, I sat down to write it and was like done. And I was like, oh, so I guess I have to like print this now.
Yeah. No, it's dope. It's dope. I said it already at the beginning of the show. The journal's fire. Definitely check it out. She did a lot of work on every detail of it, the design. She was very intentional about how she put it together. So I highly recommend it. Definitely go ahead and get yours. We'll have the link in the show description for this episode, so you can get that pre-order going.
Yes. And if I didn't say it already, if you want to do that courage workshop with me, the date is to be determined. So if you're not already on the mailing list, get on the mailing list.
Yes. All right.
Oh, wow. That took a lot of courage. And I did it.
Very proud husband over here. All right. That's the show, guys. Remember, if you're loving the show, please subscribe and give us 5 stars wherever you watch or listen.
Namaste.